I'm gonna solve a bunch of chess puzzles as fast as I can. Let's see how I do. Okay, let's start off with something easy here. So, our opponent just castled queenside, and that is actually a big blunder. And pause the video if you think you know why. Okay, well, if you had a chance to do that, that's because the queen is now pinned to the king. So we can take advantage of that by moving our bishop to g5, which makes this pin. And then they bring their pawn here, and we do, and then they can only take, they can't move because then that would put their king in check. It's illegal, so we win the queen like that. Okay, here our friend has just moved their bishop over to g4, threatening to attack our queen. So a normal response would be for us to move our queen somewhere else, like here, to avoid the attack. But we actually are winning a piece here. Pause the video if you would like to see the solution. Well, if you had a chance to look at that, take a look at what's defending the bishop. This knight, right? And you'd probably argue, well, I can't take this knight because it's guarded by this bishop or such, and like I can't take this bishop, but it's guarded by the queen. But you actually can take this knight. Let me show you why. Because after you take this knight, they can't capture your queen because their king is in check. So they either have to move their king here or take with the bishop like this, in which case we can simply take the bishop, and now we're up 3 points. Okay, in this case, white has just moved their rook over to f6, putting our king in check. Now, there's only one king move that works, and this part's not so hard. You simply move your king forward to e7, hoping to, just counterattack. And the good thing about this move is that this rook can no longer attack your king, so it can no longer put your king in a perpetual check. So then they decide to move their rook over to f3. Now, here's where things get interesting. You see, your pawn wants to promote to a queen, except the fact that your rook is it's literally blocking its own way, like stopping it from achieving that goal. But the problem is, if you move your rook over somewhere, then they're just going to capture your pawn and you're not going to be able to promote. But here's the thing. We actually move our rook over to a1. And you're like, Brent, aren't you crazy? We're just going to take. Correct. We want them to think that. Because if they do that, now we can skewer the king to the rook, and now they move, and then we simply win our rook. The other option for them would be to maybe move their king, in which case we simply promote to a queen anyways. They can't take, and we'd be up a rook. Either way, we're winning the rook and we're winning the game. Okay, this puzzle is slightly trickier because there's no direct attack on the king. And one thing I always say is the first thing is look for any direct attacks on the king, except in this case, there aren't any. There actually is one. It's rook over to c3, but this just gets captured by the bishop, so it's a complete waste of a move. So what do we do instead? Well, first, take a look at where the king can legally go before we make our move. So where the king can physically go. Okay, now, where can it legally go? Not here, not here, not here. The king's defending it, and not here. The pawn. It's kind of trapped. So the answer is we play the very, very quiet move, rook to d6, and now the king is boxed in. It can't move to either of these two squares, and nothing saves the day because we're gonna, on the very next move, bring our rook over here to checkmate. There's nothing they can do. They can't move their bishop anywhere. Maybe they take the rook, but that just doesn't save the day, and this is checkmate. Well, usually my last puzzles are quite interesting or challenging, but this one's not that hard. But I thought I'd introduce a technique to you guys called the windmill. And this is actually very cool. It's when the king is checked over and over again, and then you just win pieces repeatedly. So here, the first move, it usually involves a bishop and a rook, by the way, is you play rook to g2, putting the king in check. Now, the king has to move over to h1. Now, you can actually move your rook any possible amount of squares, but only one of them saves the day. You see, this is actually not, you can't just pick any square, because if you move your rook somewhere like, I don't know, here, or something like that, then they can just block like this. And like now you don't have that check anymore and you're not checkmating. This is actually, I checked the evaluation board, it's a mate in 7. You'd argue, sure, you could win the queen, but like you're already down a queen and the position would just be equal. So in this case, it doesn't really help. The only rook move that saves the day, after showing what I showed you they can block with the pawn, is to play rook f2, and now they can't block with their pawn. The king is once again in check, so then they start doing whatever they can to defend it, maybe like this. Maybe they go here, and then they bring their here, and then you do this, and they go back. And now, let me ask you a question. Does it matter where you move your rook in order to checkmate? I'm going to leave the thinking to you.